everybody, and welcome to another Room Rumble. And this time we've gone into a room over at Missing Mods channel, and I will link that channel, of course, to just have a discussion with people. I came in and there was a massive fight going on. I sort of tried to calm everybody down and explain to sort of the Christian there, who is Dustin Buck, what we meant, what we mean by induction, what we mean by all of these terms, and how the scientific process works. I don't think I got very far. I think that his idea of science was, well, if you've got a degree, people just believe anything that you say, which is not how science works. You can have all the degrees in the world. If somebody shows that through the scientific process you are mistaken in what you think the outcome of any scientific experiment or any kind of test is, then your research will be overturned. So it's sort of getting him to understand that it's not about credentials and it's not about who the person is. It's not about how intelligent they are. It's not about all of these extraneous things. Was very difficult. And he seemed to have this sort of belief that because you use induction, and we sort of had to explain what induction is, because we use induction for science, then I can just use it for God. And there's some massive problems there when induction is seeing the repeated patterns of something and applying it to predictions into the future and doing that with a god or a god character of some way. So it was an interesting conversation, and it is a follow-up to a previous Bustin, Dustin, which sort of was me sort of explaining other things to him, like evolution as one. So I hope you enjoy. It's been a long time since we had a Room Rumble. It's about time. And here is me in Missing Mod's room, Bustin' Dustin. Let's get ready to rumble.
Can you please not use the F word on
If
this
you
channel?
shut up!
This is something that all of us have agreed on. So respect.
Oh, dear God, shut up!
The channel owner enough
as soon as you
shut
up! Shut up! Stop speaking! No, I'm not going to respect you, dude. That's just not going to happen. It's not. I'm not respecting you.
Respect the channel owner?
No, I'm not going to respect you.
Kick him.
That's not going to happen.
Not gonna respect you.
That's not what I said, even. Dude, this guy isn't even intellectually honest enough to let me speak.
That's because you don't listen. We don't use
listen to what?
Out of respect for the channel owner.
Shut up!
You can't do that.
Dude, can you shut up? Just shut up!
No.
Shut up! Shut your mouth, dude! Like, I don't even want to talk to you anymore.
If you're talking to me in a tone like that, I'm not going to shut up. If
blah,
you can't talk like a decent human being, like an adult,
yada, yada, blah, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. Shut up, dude. You're not saying anything either, though. Like, you're not even advancing the conversation. You're trying to bogart me into making a definition that you're going to argue with. Even if I gave you even if I gave you a dictionary definition of what you're asking for, you're still going to claim I didn't know.
A definition.
Even if I gave you a dictionary definition of what you're asking for, you're going to claim I don't know what I'm talking about. So I don't care to advance the conversation in that direction. I want to know how you get to
a simple question.
Yeah, you can ask. You haven't answered any of mine yet. 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 You haven't answered any of mine yet.
I have.
You haven't answered? What was your answer?
I told you about.
What was your answer?
What
was your answer? What was your answer? What was your answer? Do you like it? Do you like that? Shut up!
Dustin.
What?
Just 1 second, mate. Like, I understand you're angry. Let's just everyone take a breath because it's just out of control, mate. Like, just I understand you're angry. I don't know what the fight is about. Let's just all take a breath, right? I get you're angry, mate. It's okay. Like, I'm not trying to hassle you. I'm not trying to hassle Peter. I just, let's just take a breath. What is the problem, Dustin?
Thank you, Mark.
No, there isn't a problem. I asked him.
No, Christian Pike asked if he could have the floor. Can we let Christian have the floor for just a few seconds?
Yes, please.
Thank you, guys.
Great.
I just wanted to say
I'm never going to get a chance to speak, am I?
Well,
can
maybe
you
you
let
can go after
Christian have a
Christian
few words,
just for 1
please?
second.
Christian,
Is that
go
time?
ahead.
Okay. I just wanted to say hello and God bless. Hey, Mark, Reid, I haven't seen you in a while. And hello, Dustin.
Hey.
How are you?
Alive and well.
Good. And happy to hear it.
Is that all you wanted to say?
That helped.
That's all I had.
Okay. Well, Dustin, what did you want to say, mate?
I was trying to establish something. I was trying to have an epistemological conversation with an individual about how you get from belief to know, and whether or not one is necessary for the other. And
Okay.
he started talking about him being an epistist, and I mean that's what really all that is.
A what?
Whatever you said.
A pistist?
Yeah, whatever. I can't remember what it was you said.
You officially now acknowledge that you don't know what the
hold
word
on, Peter.
is.
Or I don't remember. Or I don't remember what you said exactly.
Peter,
but whatever.
That's not helpful. That's not helpful. Do you mean an empiricist?
No, that's not what I meant.
Epistefist.
Epistefist. I can't.
Epistefist. And I asked.
And he's making fun of me for my lack of ability to pronounce a word.
He thought that was an attack on him. It wasn't. I was just trying to clarify whether or not he knew what an epistefist is. But he got angry.
He's trying to
because he doesn't
I didn't get angry.
I think he feels stupid or something, which is not my fault.
I don't feel stupid. I was trying to tell you. I was trying to tell you that if we haven't established the first portion of the conversation, it's in bad taste and in bad form to try and force the conversation onto another topic, which is exactly what you were doing.
Which is why
Which is
why it's important for you to know that I'm an epistefist.
Peter, for those people out there that don't know, epistefist simply means that you don't use faith to come to any kind of knowledge claim. That's it. That's all it means.
No.
See? It didn't matter what definition I gave. He was going to argue with me no matter what. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Then what would you define it as, Peter? How do you use it?
An epistefist is someone who rejects faith as a proposition to use to come to a certain belief, and we should reject everything that requires faith in order to believe it for that reason, as it being the most dishonest position to take on any certain or any given point.
Well, I don't think
is
necessarily the epistefist point of view. I don't think that's necessarily it. But I would agree that, hey, you're extending it to any kind of belief. That's fine. I kind of agree with that.
This is the definition because this is the definition because the word was made up by Bionic Dance. The word epistefist. The definition was there before it, and the definition was made up by Arn Ra. That is the definition of the word. And there is dishonest in that definition. It's not because I want to use that or I want to make or want to claim that other people are dishonest, because that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that faith is a dishonest position to take on any certain position. There's nothing on the planet you couldn't believe based on faith.
But Peter, that doesn't actually address the question, which is,
no, you weren't here, Mark. Respectfully, you weren't here. The only reason I wanted to point that out because we had a conversation about belief and knowledge and the difference and what is needed for both.
That's fine. So
that's why I wanted to be clear that I'm an epistefist, and I asked him to define what he means with when he says belief, and he hasn't done that so far. He has refused to do that so far.
Actually, I have, and if you were paying attention, you would have heard
not here
that my definition of I'm about to repeat it. You can go back and listen. Okay.
He
is
did
Okay.
try, but he was talked over.
Well, Dustin, I
And you
wasn't
wouldn't-
here,
Then
so do you
I was
mind
probably
finding
the
it?
one
Hang on a
talking
second.
over it.
Hang on. So, Dustin, I wasn't here, so do you mind just quickly giving me just a loose definition so I can know what you're talking about?
So belief. Now I had the quote almost exact, but now I'm gonna mess it up. So it's basically knowledge gained through repeatable, verifiable situations. I said something different, but I can't remember what I said.
Okay. So you think
So, like, if
belief
I
and
was to
knowledge
throw a
are the
rock,
same
if
thing?
if I was to throw a rock off of a cliff and I was to watch it fall, right? Then by logic, I could deduce that if I was to jump, I would fall, right? But because I haven't seen myself fall, I'm taking that on faith that that is the logical consequence of jumping,
Okay.
right?
Right. Well, I mean, that seems a bit strange to me because belief, like, I wouldn't equate belief with knowledge, for instance. Right. So I would say that the usual definition of knowledge and the one that I would use is justified true belief. So if you have a justification that you would fall, and that is also happens to be true, then you have knowledge that that is true.
You don't have
Mark,
knowledge
do you
until you
agree that
witness it,
knowledge is a
until
subset of belief?
you have to have empirical, verifiable data to claim that you have knowledge. If you haven't
Oh,
witnessed
I
yourself
mean,
fall, then you don't know for a fact that you will. You're taking it on faith based on the preponderance of the evidence given in a certain subset of any situation.
well, no, I would disagree with that. I think you can use a variety of justification, like, for instance, induction, for instance. So, like, we know that Pluto goes around the sun, but we haven't ever seen Pluto make a full circuit of the sun. It takes way too long, right? But we know that it will go around the sun because of induction, because what we can do is induce future events from patterns that are occurring. Like, so from our understanding of physics and the way that Pluto is moving, we know it will go around the sun, because we understand gravity and all of that kind of thing. So I don't think you actually need to observe directly the events in order to have knowledge. You just need
Well,
a justification that.
then I claim that God is real without any
Mhm.
empirical knowledge. What are you going to do with that claim? You're going to claim that it's impossible and tell me that I have to have some kind of independent data to back up that claim. You need to make up my mind here. Which is it? Can I
Okay.
induce
Well,
from
you've
nature
asked me
and
a
everything
question.
around me? Well, but I'm clarifying, right? I'm not moving on from this question.
Mm.
Can I induce from nature and everything around me that I see that God exists? Or am I left to your conclusion because the evidence doesn't fit in your scale model?
So induction is seeing a series of patterns that leads you to believe the pattern will continue. That's what induction is. So in nature, where do you see a mind without a brain?
In trees, trees don't
Trees
know,
don't have
don't
minds.
you don't know that. They have an intent to grow. They know they need to eat, or well, they need to consume nutrients from the earth and water.
So
You don't we
you're
and
making
that's
the
another thing
claim.
is you're making a claim. You're making a claim that consciousness, right, is something that can only be measured on the human scale and it doesn't extend to trees,
Oh, I
right?
never
And
said
I'm
that.
saying that, well, okay, then when a tree takes nutrients from the ground, I'm making the claim, right? And I'm willing to stand by that claim that the tree needs the nutrients to survive. Therefore, there is some level of conscious decision to consume those nutrients.
So you're saying that trees have a mind.
No, I'm saying that trees make a decision, and that's evidence for a mind.
Well, Well, that would mean that trees would have a mind, is what you're claiming.
Oh,
I can't prove that, but I can prove that trees are alive and that they need nutrients to do so, and that it
Can I
would
ask a
cost
question?
that. Absolutely.
Everybody, Brother Pike wants to say something.
Oh, I was going to let you guys finish.
have,
There's no rush.
Okay.
I have one question. Dustin, how do you know the trees make decisions?
The same way you know that Pluto is going to make a revolution, the same way that you know that Pluto has to make a revolution around the sun. I'm making an inductive argument.
So
it doesn't make any sense.
If nobody's ever seen but it makes sense. It makes sense to make an inductive argument about how gravity works, and Pluto's going to make a full revolution around the sun, even though nobody's ever seen it. But you're going to argue, because I have no independent data, that trees have no consciousness. Make up my mind. Can I make an inductive argument, or can I not?
We have. Hold on. We have empirical evidence that Pluto is.
Dear God in heaven,
going around the sun.
I have empirical evidence that trees take nutrients, and that's a logical decision.
That was my question.
You're not gonna. No, I don't care about your question. You're dodging my argument.
No, you're not going to move the goalpost. You're moving the goalpost.
Yeah, you are.
I asked you,
I'm not.
Do you have empirical evidence for trees making decisions? I'm not talking
Where's your
about
empirical evidence?
On nutrients.
Where's your empirical evidence that Pluto?
Not whataboutism. Not whataboutism. Answer the question.
You're not even in this conversation anyway. This is between me and.
I am in this conversation.
No, you're not. Maybe you see your way out of it.
Both of you.
You're out of it now. I don't want to talk to you anyway.
Both of you. Look, this isn't a only we get
because you're going to lose,
Dustin.
right?
This isn't
lose what? You're arguing with yourself.
Well, no, I'd like to address what Dustin said, because we've got evidence of things that living organisms do without the mind being involved. Like, for instance,
we actually do. We have all kinds of. Yeah, we have all kinds of.
Let me finish. So we don't make a decision about breathing, or we don't make a decision about our cells multiplying, right? We don't do that. So things can make movements and behaviors in nature without there being a mind involved.
Well, I mean, I would argue that there's a sub-mind, but whatever. It is what it is. My argument stands. And I'm asking you why I couldn't make what? What's a sub-mind?
What is a sub-mind? Sub-mind. You said a sub-mind. I assume it's not a submissive mind.
You have, your stomach, for example, is the only part of your body that sends signals back to the mind, right? When you're hungry, the stomach has to generate that signal and send it to the brain. It's not the brain telling the stomach that it's hungry. Yeah. It's the stomach telling the brain that's a sub-mind. It's an example of a sub-mind. We also see it miniature minds in larger dinosaurs, an example of a sub-mind. Maybe I was premature with my terminology. It's not necessarily a scientific term, but by example and extension, I think you can extrapolate what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
I can extrapolate
it, sure. I think that sort of when you're looking at this stuff, your mind doesn't have to tell your stomach to digest. And you're right, there are some things that you can go, okay, that's a more primitive, like what we would call a mind, like nerve bundles and things like that. And what we observe in the world is that the more simplistic the brain sort of pattern, or the nerve pattern, or the neurology is basically what we're talking about, the brain and the nerves together, the more simplistic that is, the more simplistic the mind is behind it. So when you're sort of saying a sub-mind, you're still talking about a physical neurology that produces a sort of very primitive mind-like thing. But that's different than not having any neurology at all, which is what the case is with God. and you're still claiming a God exists without that whatsoever. And that's what I
No,
want evidence
no,
of,
I
to
think
be
that's
able
a
to.
false
No,
equivalency.
no, Dustin, let me finish. That's what I want evidence of, to say you inductively can say there is a mind without any kind of physical neurology at all.
That's a false equivalency. That's not the claim I was making. I asked a question under the guise of that claim. You're saying
Can I get the
by
floor?
induction. What?
Whenever you guys get done, I just wanted to take the floor for a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Christian.
hold on a second. You're saying by induction that I have to agree, right, because of the principles of logic and math and physics, that Pluto will make a complete revolution around the sun, even though we have no direct empirical knowledge or evidence of that. So I turn the argument around and I say, if I say that patterns in nature, such as paramecium, or not paramecium, what's the fungus? Or examples. Okay, I'll just change it over.
Penicillin?
The fungus that no, the fungus that solves puzzles. I forget what it's called.
Bolensia?
No, they have a special name for it. Well, I see examples of like reverse entropy. I see trees that live on nothing more than just groundwater and sunlight, right? And I'm asking you why I couldn't take these odds and ends and say from extrapolation, just like you do, that Pluto's going to make a full revolution around the sun, that there's a God. And you can't, for the life of you, explain the difference, right? Like, I have to take it on faith that Pluto's going to make a revolution around the sun. But for some reason, my claim that God exists is unjustified. Kind of confused.
Well, I think it's sort of begging the question, because you're sort of saying the things designed by God is evidence of God. Like, you're sort of saying, well, I'm going to assume all of these things are designed by God in the world that I see around me, without actually justifying why that is. Like, why it is that this bacteria, you said it can find its way through a maze. Like, why it is that has to be designed by a god instead of natural processes. So you're kind of begging the question. You're assuming the conclusion first, and then you're going back and saying, hey, that's the conclusion for the induction. Like, you have to actually show that. And well, hold on a second. You actually have to show that evidence in the natural world around you is actually evidence for a god, because I don't see it.
Show me Pluto making a revolution around the sun. I don't see it. You're making the claim that Pluto makes a complete revolution around the sun. I've never seen the empirical evidence. Show me it. There isn't
so
any.
I can basically point to, well, yeah, hold on, Dustin. I can point to how we understand physics, which tracks objects and the way that they move, both in our atmosphere and in space. I can show that Pluto has a certain trajectory. I can show that it's a certain mass. I can show its effects under gravity. I can show other things' effects under gravity and the way that they rotate around a larger mass. And I can all show that will lead to the vector of Pluto coming back into its own orbit.
What exactly would you be showing me? You would be showing me animation on a computer screen or numbers on a chalkboard, right? Like, you couldn't actually show me Pluto making the full revolution, right? You couldn't, like, pluck us out of this time and space and then put us on Pluto in that time and space and make us witness that revolution. You couldn't do that, could you?
Well, I can't show you an electron with your naked eye either.
Right.
I can do
but
it.
I have to take it on faith.
Let me finish. Okay, you've just rudely interrupted right there. But what I can show you is all of the things that, we know about electronics, how the resistance and voltage and ampage works. And I can show you how I would design a circuit and then basically put that into practice. But I can't show you the electron. This is the whole thing. When you're sort of saying we observe stuff, we're not just talking about going and looking at it. We're talking about inductive process based upon our understanding of how the laws of nature actually work. You just saying, hey, everything around us was designed by God, so I'm going to use that as evidence that there is a God. It doesn't really add anything to the conversation.
You're misrepresenting me, and again, you're
How
doing a
so?
false equivalency, because that's not what I'm saying.
How so?
I'm not claiming that. I
Then
didn't
what are you
make that
saying?
claim. I asked you a question in reference to that claim. If you're saying that there's no real empirical evidence that Pluto makes a revolution around the sun, then why couldn't I take that same argument and apply it to God? Quit saying I'm making the
There is
claim that he's
empirical
real.
evidence.
Well, I you're
Yeah.
that's directly
So
contradicting what you said earlier, but that's fine. It's neither here nor there.
I'm
It
not
doesn't matter
sure.
because
uh,
okay,
Okay, I'm
I'll
not
let
sure
you
you
talk
understand
because
empirical.
that's not rude when you do it.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, I'm really sorry. It's just empirical just means like evidence gathered with your senses, right?
Right,
So
where I
if
can
we
see it,
gather all of
right?
the no, not just see it, right? Not just see it directly.
You can
So
feel it.
if we can, well, no, we observe the movement of Pluto through telescopes. We have an
That's
understanding of how
seeing,
gravity
right?
works throughout.
Am I crazy or is
Well, it
that
depends
seeing?
on Well, it depends on how we're gathering the information, because Pluto's incredibly dark. It's very, very hard to see. So we may grab, things like spectroscopy readings, for instance.
I mean, again, you're telling me every time you tell me that there's another layer of science, there's another hurdle of belief I got to get over, right? And then with every layer of science comes another 10 years of education in order to understand what it is that's actually being said, right? You want to jump over all these layers, and to keep in mind, you went from Pluto to the electron, right? Like, I mean, that's a pretty big
Sure.
leap. So
The
like
process is the
all I'm
same.
asking you for is to make it even. Like, why should I believe Pluto based on science, right? If I can't take that same argument and apply it to God, it doesn't work, right? I don't care about however many layers of science you can put in between me and Pluto, right? I'm asking you about the
Okay, maybe
argument
I've gone.
itself, okay?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I've gone wrong here. Like, are you a flat earther or something? You don't believe in gravity or something like that, or you don't believe in
No,
Pluto that
no.
it's a
Look,
thing?
I
Is
can grant, or I can discriminate against any form of information or logic. I am not trying to hold to any form of principle here. I'm asking you questions, right? Like that. This isn't guided by
yeah.
anything, right? I'm going based on the information that you're giving me, right? You brought up Pluto. I'm sticking with
Mhm.
Pluto because it's the easiest example, right? You're telling me by induction, by the laws of physics, by the laws
Yes.
of math, by the laws of whatever else there is out there, because I'm not allowed to include God, that Pluto, even though I have no direct a line of sight information for myself, is going to make a complete revolution around the sun. Now, I'm asking you why it's silly for me to take that same argument, apply it to God, and why you tell me that it's wrong, but I have to accept that Pluto's going to make a revolution around the sun. It can seem
Okay,
every
sure.
bit as
Yeah, it's
logical to you.
because
Well,
what
hold on. Let me just tie a little bow on this, okay? It can seem every bit as logical to you
Mhm.
that Pluto does that naturally as it does to me that God made this place.
Okay. So what
Just
I can show
wondering,
you.
can we get Christian have the floor just for a brief moment? It was
Yeah,
what,
yeah, sure, sure.
15
I'll
minutes
I'll
ago he
I'll
asked.
stay till afterwards, sure.
Okay, thanks, guys. I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation. This is off topic, of course, but we'll be doing a teaching. I don't know if it's going to be Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, but sometime the first part of next week, we'll be doing a teaching, and sort of another scriptural study on a subject, like we do sometimes. And Dustin, I would like to invite you to be on the panel as one of our resident experts for that teaching.
I'm not a resident expert.
Well, I think on this particular teaching, you might do okay.
I appreciate the
Christian,
vote
you're
of
not having a show
confidence.
today?
What did you say, Peter?
You're not having a show today?
It won't
Just
be
got
today.
the
No,
day off.
it'll be the
I
first part
just
of the
got the
week.
day off so I can join your show that
You
you
ain't
do
never
every
gonna join my
Thursday
show,
when I'm
Peter.
live.
Anyways, we'll be doing.
I honestly just got the message that we won't have a show tonight, and I thought, yay, I can watch Christian. And now you're not having a show.
I would love to have you on, Dustin, if you're available. I don't know what day it's going to be yet, but it'll be either Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, and it'll be at 7:30 Eastern. We're going to be doing a study on the character of Satan, and I thought you might find it very interesting to go through all the passages with us.
The accuser. I just think he wants someone satanic
also
on the
off
show.
topic. I have to get that out before Christian leaves again. Remember, Christian, that I earlier said that I was a little guy? Someone sent me a video that justifies my belief in the little tools. It's a commercial by Arnold Schwarzenegger for little tools. I'm not kidding. Someone sent that. Someone was watching and thought, hey, I need to go send that. Just saying. I mean, I know you appreciate a laugh, so
there you go.
Moment of levity.
I just wanted to keep it light.
All right.
All right,
I just
not counting your participation, buddy.
don't pressure
it depends. My work schedule's crazy.
Good. I just want to go back and just before
Christian,
I lose
can
my
I come
train
on
of thought.
as an expert on the matter?
You can. You're an expert of a different sort, Peter.
It's an expert on the matter.
Right.
What do you know about Satan, son?
You should have Arn. Hold on. You should have Arn on for that.
Okay, to be fair, Aaron does kind of look like the Disney devil.
Yes, and he's a member of the Satanic Temple. So,
I mean, I don't know how much he
Aaron Ra
studies.
has better things to do than come by my little tiny teaching.
yes,
it's
okay.
interesting what
Do you want
invoke his name before a mirror? Invoke his name before a mirror 3 times.
He is welcome to join, Peter, but as you guys know, the way that I do my teachings are a little bit different. You know, we do a closed panel until the initial teaching is over, and then we open up. So if he would be willing to stay for the teaching, he is certainly welcome on the panel afterwards.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I'll be honest, I don't think he has the time. But
no, I
know for a
fact.
I know for a fact that if he had the time, he would definitely do it.
I like him. I think he's a very nice person.
I got to email him again, actually.
So do I.
Now that I come to think of it. He just was, going away to a convention last time I asked him to come on my channel. So I've got to resend something, perhaps.
Well, anyways, Dustin, I just wanted to extend the invitation. I would love to have you there.
I'd love to have a conversation with him.
Okay.
I appreciate that. No guarantees.
This Saturday.
My work schedule's crazy.
I understand. I got a schedule like that.
All right, so let's get back to this. I'm looking forward to the answer to this question.
Dustin, I didn't. Yeah, okay. So when you're sort of saying, hey, you can appeal to the laws of gravity, the laws of I think you said the laws of nature or law of math, or math and gravity and things like that. I can show you how those are reliable in an inductive process. Like I can show you how we can make testable predictions, and those are reliable for predicting things into the future. And those future events will come out. So if you're talking about math, I can make proofs for math, use math to show you that it is reliable in adding things up and dividing things and doing everything in math. And I can show you how the laws of gravity, like, for instance, the Cavendish experiment, for instance, which shows you how much gravitational attraction will be there on a scale. Very famous experiment with gravity. So I can show you how all of these things work and how they play into predicting things into the future. For instance, if I can predict where the moon will be, kind of thing, using this process, then I should be able to predict where Pluto will be as well. It should work the same if my model that I'm using with these laws of gravity and math are accurate. So that's why I would say that's reliable. But it seems to me you've just said things in nature are from God. And I don't understand how you're showing me that that is a reliable, testable prediction that I can see actually works in nature as you're claiming.
Did you want an answer, or is there more?
Oh, please expound on it. How do you
No, no.
claiming, how do you back up? Well, I was just rephrasing it into a question. If you want a question,
All right,
what I want
go
to
ahead.
know is how do you show that when you say everything in nature, you can see that God did all of this stuff in nature, and that leads you to believe that there's a God. How do you show to me that that is a reliable, testable prediction, a model that I can use to predict things?
So you're saying that because you have methods that are pre-approved by people who are smarter than you, I have to accept it, whereas I have methods that are pre-approved by people who are smarter than me, you don't have to accept it. There are many Nobel laureates that believe in God. I mean, I don't have to match you example for example. It doesn't even matter the number. What matters is the quality of the individual that is making the claim as far as their education is concerned. So, I mean, that's a moot argument. My question was centered around if I have to have a certain amount of information, right, before a claim is acceptable, okay, i.e., the Pluto going around the sun, right, math, physics, and whatever else, because I can't include God, right? Why I couldn't take that same argument and apply it to God. It was a question to you. I did not claim to know whether or not the information that you provide as evidence would even qualify as evidence. Because number one, if I disagree with it, the argument comes to I don't have the education to understand. And if I do agree with it, I must be super smart because I get along with the orthodoxy. I'm tired of running up against this wall. I'm trying to get around it. Now, if I have to believe, based on these principles that we are well aware established, are agreed upon by people that are both smarter than you and I, when there are also other people that are smarter than them that have made other arguments to the contrary, can we agree that that's a moot point and get back to the question at hand?
I think that's a moot point because you're absolutely straw manning what I'm actually saying. This whole idea of, well, your methods are pre-approved and mine are not. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that there's certain methodologies that give testable predictions. We can predict that something will happen and it will actually happen. Like it's got nothing to do with the person that's doing it. You went on to say that many Nobel laureates are. No, I'm going to address all your questions, Dustin. You are not going to gish gallop and then get away from this. I'm going to address every single point you made. So you said that many sort of laureates believe in God, and yes, that's true. But when you get to the science laureates, the Nobel Prize laureates in sciences, they don't use God in science because science is methodological naturalism. Like Francis Collins, for instance, who worked on the Genome Project. I respect him a lot because of his work on the Human Genome Project. He doesn't use God. He believes in God, but doesn't use it in science because that's a incorrect use of science, basically. It's just that's not what it's for. So it's not about this. It's about what methods can we use to predict things into the future, which is induction, right? So it's not the quality of the person at all. And the certain amount of information that sort of says that Pluto should go around the sun, we can apply that to other things and say, hey, would that information predict where this comet will be in, a month's time? And it will work. Where will this asteroid be in a year's time? And it works. Now, sort of, you're sort of saying, well, you're well aware that they're established and, people are smarter than one. It's not about smarter. It's about who can use their methodology to make predictions about what will happen in the future or how things will turn out and have a reliable way to predict them. Because that is the only way you can inductively say, well, that's a reliable methodology. That's what induction is. It's predicting behaviors in the future from what we see now.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Address the question. Why can I not upload you do to Pluto?
I explained that. Okay, if you want to sort of trim down answer, I can certainly provide one. It's basically that the reasons why I know Pluto goes around the sun is because of the
Going
law
around.
of nature. Okay, is Dustin still talking? I think he may be breaking up. Are you breaking? Anybody else hearing that? Is that me?
I think he's breaking up.
He was talking. He was talking and he's breaking up, both.
Are you there, Dustin?
Dustin has a hard time listening to people. This thing.
Dustin?
Yeah, look, I'm coming back. Can you guys hear me? Look, you're not
we can hear you
addressing
now.
the question, Mark. You're not.
Okay.
Okay. Huh? No, I listened to everything he said.
Well, maybe I can simplify it for you then. Because induction relies on reliable predictions. Okay, well, I'll just say it for everybody else. Because induction, it's basically based in reliable predictions. It pivots upon reliable predictions. If you can't show that the information you're gathering is reliably predictive, then induction doesn't work as a reason. For instance, if you see someone flip a coin and it lands on heads, and you say, well, I'm going to make the induction from that it will always land on heads, you're going to be wrong, because you don't have a way of showing that just one flip will give you accurate results. Does that make sense to everybody else?
Yeah.
Oh, there you are, Dustin. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear anything. Now, just
Okay,
hold on a second here, Mark. Can you just let me
explain to you. You
well,
said you didn't
I just
understand.
listened. No, I just listened to what you said. Okay, now hold on a second here, okay? Because I listened to you, and I just heard it claimed.
Dustin, hold on. I asked if you heard what I said before, and you said no.
No, I heard it up to the point where I responded. Right, I heard all that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And what I said to you is maybe I could simplify it for you, right? And
no, you don't need to simplify it. You don't need to simplify it for me. Okay, like
Well, you said that I didn't answer the question, and
you're not.
Did.
You're really not. Okay, you're saying that it's reasonable to believe. Okay, now I mean this in a nutshell. You're saying for me, because I don't have the education, I have to go on the evidence. You once argued that evidence has to be evident, right? I don't have the education to claim that I know the math involved with predicting where a comet's going to be. I have to go based on the evidence that shows your prediction is correct, and then I have to take it on faith that your work is related to it. I have to do that. I have no other option because I don't have the requisite education, right? Can anybody hear me?
So do you think it's... Yeah, I can hear you. Do you think it's evident that physicists can predict where a comet will be using physics and their knowledge of how objects move in space?
I think that when I see a big object in space and it was told to me a month before it was going to be there, that it's there, that's clear evidence that they knew it was going to be there. Evidence.
Right.
I think that I don't have the education to explain. Right. I think that if I took time, I could probably understand it. It's not that it's so far above my head that I couldn't understand it, but that's not the
I'm
point.
I'm not saying that.
These words that you're attacking that are a part of my argument. Hold on. Look, because I understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying, Mark. I get what you're saying, but I think you're just saying the other side of my argument. When I say it doesn't matter the scientist, what matters is the person and their education, the quality of their education, the quality of the person as far as their education is involved. Well, what do you mean? I just explained it. What do you mean? I cannot understand the mechanics of where a comet in the sky is going to be because I don't have the requisite education. You just agreed with that. What do you mean you don't understand?
Yeah. Well, because it's not that they've got this education, it's that they're predicting things into the future, and those things are actually, so you just said it is evident that they can predict where a comet will be into the future, and they do that, but I have to using math and.
I have to take it on faith that that's what they're doing, though. Like, would you trust me if I came to you? No, hold on a second, Mark. If I came to you and I said, this guy's math was wrong about Halley's Comet supposed to being it, so he put a 4 somewhere wrong, would you listen to me? Would you even give it the time of day? I don't think you would, because I don't have the requisite education.
Hold it. That's not right. Because if you came to me and said, hey, they're wrong about where Halley's Comet would be, and I say, oh, I don't believe you because you don't have the education or whatever, and then it was where you would say it should be and not them, then I would have to listen to you of how you figured that out.
In what?
Right.
In what Lululand psychopath world do you think that I would be able to do that? I don't have the requisite. I'm not talking about some hypothetical where I'm right. I'm talking about a hypothetical. Yeah, and you're taking it out of context. I'm telling you, in my example, I don't have the education. I wouldn't understand the mechanics. Can you understand my example now? Why would I even try?
Okay, so
why would I even?
You're asking me questions.
Try to bring a problem with you to like.
Let me address them. Let me address them. So if you're basically saying, well, if I came to you and said, oh, it's going to be here, and we've got a vast history of people that don't do
in
the math
this
and
hypothetical.
Let me finish. Let me finish.
Already established. I don't know. No.
Okay.
But you got to understand. I already told hypothetical. All right, but that's a part of the hypothetical. I already don't know the math and the mechanics that are involved, so you have to take that into account.
Yeah, so if we've got a history of NASA being able to predict all kinds of, comets and meteorites and planets and all kinds of stuff to where they actually will be, as well as having the technical ability to search the universe or at least the solar system for this stuff, and somebody comes up and says, no, they're wrong, I'm going to have more, than just you saying they're wrong, because, inductively, they're very much right all of the time. It's not to do with whether their education is there. It's to do with they accurately predict these things constantly. And you don't.
And that's not because of math that they learned from school and education. Right? That's not from physics.
Well,
that's a related field, but you also have to be educated in. Oh, okay. So education is involved then, right? And they only employ the best educated, correct? Right?
Well, no, it depends on what they're doing. I mean, really. Well, no, hang on, Dustin, let me address this, because they're saying that's what they're using, right? Because I can't do that either. Right? I can't do that either. I'm not trained in physics. I can't do that either. But they're saying that's what they use, and they constantly make these really good predictions, and they know where these things are going to be. So I don't know why I would be going, well, you're not, hang on, Dustin, let me finish. You're not
Go
using
ahead.
the method that you say you're using, and you are just making it up with your education. Why shouldn't I think that the physicists at NASA are not using math and the laws of gravity as they are claiming when they keep predicting these things again and again and again?
Are we still in my hypothetical, or are we in yours?
I don't know.
In
I'm
my
just asking you a question.
Well, you wouldn't. Well, in my hypothetical, you wouldn't. In my hypothetical, I'm spouting off in the mouth with stuff that I don't know. In your hypothetical, I'm an idiot in any case, and I'm not allowed to even try to make a hypothetical because it just doesn't make sense to you. I don't know what world we're living in right now. Can you just stop trying to straw man my argument and listen to what I'm trying to say? I don't have the requisite
I'm not formatting
education
your
to
argument.
Well, now you're just talking over me. I don't have the requisite education in order to understand the mechanics of knowing where Pluto is going to be in 10 years from now, or whether or not an asteroid or a comet or wherever the astrophysics of anything is. Okay? I have to
Right.
take it on faith. I have to. I do not have
Okay.
the 30 years it would take in order to get the education that you keep on saying is so unimportant to understand these things. I have to say, oh, they said the Halley's Comet's going to be in the northwest sky at 10 p.m. at night. And I look out and there it is. So now I have faith that the next time they tell me that, that's where it's going to be. Okay? That's my
Okay,
argument
Dustin,
here.
I
And
have
what
a
I'm
question
asking
for
you
you.
is, and
Dustin,
what I'm going to circle it back to my original question is why I couldn't take that same argument and apply it to God exists.
well, here's a question for you. Do you think that those people in NASA physicists have the requisite education to be able to predict all of these things?
I have to presume so. How would I know? Unless I go
Okay.
looking through school transcripts, doctorate awards, or I mean, look, there's ways to verify these things. I know that, but I have to take it on faith that they do.
Well, don't you think that somebody in NASA working as a scientist would have the requisite education to be able to do that?
Can I ask a
Do. I
And you
question?
think
don't know?
so. How would I know
Sure.
that? No, seriously.
Well,
Like
do they
Mark,
Can I ask
like
a
say
I
they
don't.
do?
question?
I've never been in NASA. I've never met anybody from NASA. How would I know? I mean, like, look, as far as I know, it's ran by a bunch of clowns in a small car. How would I know?
Well, they say they do, and they produce the
Right.
results. So why would
Well,
that
there's
not
people that
be
say that there's a
sort of
God, but you
evidence
tell
that
me
they
I should
do?
ignore them.
Well,
Mark,
the
can I
whole
ask a
point.
question?
Well, just give me 1 second, Peter. 1 second, then I'll let you go. The whole point is that when
Okay.
I say, show me the testable predictions that we can make with a god, we get nothing.
I mean, I, I guess that's a good point, right? But
I think my question would clear some things up.
Okay,
Why the
Peter, go.
first
Sorry, my
okay.
bad. Yeah, go for it. I'm
Okay.
following the
So
conversation.
in this hypothetical, you had two things. One, for which there is empirical evidence that maybe not all of us can understand, which I perfectly agree with. And then the other thing, for which there is no empirical evidence, just a claim. I don't think the two are on par.
Uh, well, the problem is you're not distinguishing between which is which. And the other end of the equation
Okay,
is I have
I'll
the
do that.
feeling that if you did, it
Oh,
would highlight a bias and not any actual empirical evidence for one
no,
theory over the other.
hold on. Okay, let me help you out. So we have empirical evidence, first of all, of Pluto existing. second of all, the trajectory it's taking. It was classified as a planet, and it no longer is because of its size. So we know that there's been investigation into the whole thing. For God, we only have a claim. We have no empirical evidence for God existing. And I'm not talking about claims that have been made about God in the Bible, because we can only get to that once we have established that, let's say at best, that there is a possibility for a God to exist. So, and this is not me having a bias. This is me wanting to have a serious conversation with you about that particular topic. You can get angry, and I know you might be, but that's not my intent. My intent is to have a decent conversation. So if you have empirical evidence to back up the God claim, I'd be more than interested to hear about that and going through all of it and checking out whether or not it's valid.
What empirical evidence do you have? Like, I mean, look, it like all we're doing is going back and forth about the same thing. Like, I can't explain to you the mechanics of a Pluto. I've never seen a Pluto, right? But I have to take it on faith that
And
it's
I agree
there.
with that.
One,
and I give you
that it falls around.
No, you don't.
Well, I don't. I don't have to take it on
No, you
faith.
don't.
So you're telling me
No,
I don't
no.
have to
And-
live
and
by the
okay,
idea that
I'm not trying to.
Well,
Dustin, I'm
Peter,
not trying
don't
to be
interrupt
belligerent.
Dustin.
I'm trying. I
Well,
just
you're
want to
interrupting
explain to him
Dustin
why
right now.
you
Just-
don't. Just want to explain
Why
to
I
him
don't
Peter,
why
what?
you
just
don't.
let
Because-
Dustin talk.
Why you have
So-
to? Why you don't have to take that on faith?
I don't understand any of
don't
that.
have
That
to
doesn't
take
make
that on
any
faith.
sense. So look, these are things that, like it or
hold on,
not,
I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. I don't understand a lot about cosmology, but there are science communicators who can make things clear to lay people like you and me, Dustin, to make you and me understand the physics, understand the observations, and how they came to the conclusions that they came to. But we don't have to take that on faith. We can let people help us understand it. And I don't think you're stupid. So you would be able to at least get along with a lot of what can be explained to you about this. And then you can still do your own independent verification of the things that have been explained to you. Because only someone who's incredibly stupid wouldn't know how to do that or wouldn't even attempt to do that. And I don't think that you're one of those people. Even if what I'm saying may come across like that, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I want to get across. And I think that is what Mark is trying to explain to you as well. You don't have to be an expert in every field to have people who have the capability to explain it to you. And then you take it from there. There's no faith needed. All you need to be is open to listen to people and then verify the claims that are being made to you. That's it.
Well, in fairness,
learn.
Peter, it depends what you mean by faith. So I think that's really important because I've heard different definitions of faith from people, and usually what most atheists, or even myself, think when we hear faith from a Christian is the definition of faith from the Bible.
I'm going with what is it, Hebrews 11:1?
my recall is not
That's my definition of faith.
firing on all eights now.
It's the evidence of things unseen.
Yes.
What was the other one? The substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen, I believe it was, or something along those lines.
Yeah, something along those lines. But that's if I speak about faith, that's the faith I'm talking about. The definition as given in the Bible, it's the same definition as it is given in the Quran and several other faiths. They all have the same definition.
Yeah,
that's
and
the
that
one that I'm using.
That doesn't
So-
make a lot of sense to me, as Christian Pike has pointed out, that like things hoped for don't have substance, and things unseen, there's no evidence of them. So it kind of is a paradox. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but I sort of take it as
No, but I will grant people to have that definition and to go by
Yes.
that definition, because that, to me, that's
Yes.
important. I don't want to straw man people. So if I'm talking to a Christian or a Muslim and they have that definition of faith, we'll grant them that definition because that's the definition they go by. And
Yeah, no,
9
I
out
agree,
of 10
I agree.
times when I talk to a Christian, once the conversation progresses, that's the definition they go by. So I'm just, and I usually ask people, which I did earlier.
So we've established that it
Because I
makes
think
no
that's
difference the level of education of the individual, right? Because we both have examples of really smart people believing in God and not believing in God. We have examples of people involving God in
definitely.
science, and we have examples of people not involving God in
Definitely.
science. We have examples of both of them going wrong and right spectacularly. So, what we're
can you
left.
I'm
give me an
still friends with
example?
Cygart, who is a Christian.
Sorry.
Christian.
I just want to ask something. Can you give me an example of someone using God in science?
That would be James Tor. He brings
Well, he
the
doesn't use
Bible
it in
into
science.
his. Well, he doesn't
doesn't.
claim he does. I don't know. Then what? Oh, hold on a second. There was the guy who made the gene gun. I think he was supposedly arguing against evolution at that point and tried to. But I mean, what difference? What about Isaac Newton?
He didn't use God in
Isaac
science.
Newton. No,
I mean,
He was a
he
mathematician
evidently.
anyway.
He stopped doing his science because of his belief in God. At some point, he came to the conclusion that there was no more to investigate.
I don't know about
I don't
that.
know if I believe all that. Like I've heard some recounts of, but I mean, okay, so what? If you're gonna tell me that there's no scientist in the history,
though.
I mean, if you're gonna tell me that there's no
Hold on,
scientist
Dustin.
in history,
he was a brilliant scientist. He also denied that Jesus was God, and he knew this because God spoke to him directly, saying. So I think you and I both agree on the fact that he was a brilliant scientist. Other than that, not so much.
So, Dustin, when we look at science, it's methodological naturalism, and it kind of has this inherent thing that supernatural things, we have to appeal to the natural world in order to do science. So I'm certainly not arguing that sort of what amazing scientists haven't believed in God. I'm not saying that. Absolutely they have, and they've contributed a great deal to our scientific knowledge. No one's arguing that. But when they actually do the scientific process, they don't put God in it. They don't go, well, is God a plausible explanation for this? Because you can't use science to investigate God. It's not a possibility. There's no way you can do that.
I mean,
Did he cut out, or is it me?
I'm not sure.
No, I think it's his connection again.
Okay.
or
For
the app
the
rather.
record, for the record, can I say that I'm really happy that Mark joined and kind of put out the dumpster fire. You're good at that. You're the anti-dumpster fire guy.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I agree.
I
just like having good
will
conversation.
still claim that when I grow up, I want to be Mark Reid.
You'll
I've
never
said
grow
that
up.
before.
What are you talking about? You'll never grow up.
Right?
No, I won't.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Look, I'm just really
I
interested
like-
in good
I like
conversations.
to come back.
you know?
You never grow up.
Oh, Mark, would you guys like to have that debate you never had? You and Dustin.
Oh, look, I'm more than. Oh, Dustin needs the link in chat again. I'm sorry.
I'll put it in chat. Hold on.
Thank you. Oh yeah, I'm happy to debate. I'm always happy to debate. You know me. I'm always down for a debate.
What if
Logan
you
beat
debate
me.
yourself? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I do that on the regular, mate. I don't have to set that up. My wife has told me the easiest way to win an argument with me is to suggest something and then let me argue against myself. That's the easiest thing to do. She understands me so well. I once had a friend, and they asked me what
We
was
need
the
to-
best. I was playing a game with them, and they asked me what was the best thing to use, and I went through. Oh well, this has got this thing, and this has got that thing, but both of them are good at this, but neither of them can do this. And he's like, Mark, you just argued one, then the other, then both, then neither. Like, it's just.
Mark, I have to know. Have you ever won an argument with your wife?
What do you mean by win?
Well, I mean, as come out as the one who convinced the other.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Now
But,
you're my hero.
I mean,
Now you're my hero. Just like that.
Well,
we need to,
it's look.
we need to sit down.
Arguments.
I lose that all the time.
I don't know. I think arguments like you either both win or you both lose kind of thing. You know, I think there's a something to be said about finding either, you know, where you disagree and be okay with disagreeing, or some kind of compromise between the two of us. I don't think it's a matter of one person always win, and I think that's a really black and white way to think about it.
I'm gonna explain that to you. If at the end of the argument you're still friends, you both won.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it works.
If you're both friends at the end of the argument, you didn't have an argument.
No, that's
Oh,
not the
that's not
case.
true. That's
I'm
absolutely
friends.
not true.
I'm friends and have been for several years now. I think for almost a decade with a flat earther. We disagree on the Earth being flat. We disagree on whether or not there's a God. We disagree on whether or not the Bible is true. He's a friend.
Achilles?
At some point, I care more about the person, if he's a decent guy, if he will act like a friend, than his position on certain things. And yes, we can still be friends. And we argue, but we still stay friends.
Oh, that's good. But is that Achilles you're talking about?
No. This guy hops on and off Twitter every once in a while, and I was in a terrible fight with him on Twitter when my mother passed away, and he was the first one to contact me through Skype and said, "Hey, we need to stop fighting on Twitter, and if you need someone to talk to, I'll make time for that." And from that moment on, we've been friends. And it's going to be hard to not be friends with him anymore. I'll be honest. Even though we disagree on pretty much everything.
Oh.
That's nice.
It was.
That's
and
wholesome.
It was a really bad fight, though. Really, really bad.
So, you're telling me that in the case of direct comparison, that induction argument based on science is more reliable than induction argument based on God because of predictions that are verifiable.
Yep.
Right. So how do you account for the ones that were wrong?
What do you mean?
Well, so if the scientific method has been used to be right, and the scientific method has been repeated but comes up with the wrong result, right? For example, someone has a theory, makes a scientific experiment, somewhat verifies.
No, they'll have a hypothesis, not a theory.
Observation, theory, experiment.
No.
No cause and effect.
No. Observation, questioning, hypothesis, testing, theory, publishing.
Okay, so.
Oh, actually, that's not true. Sorry, it's hypothesis, testing, publishing, peer review, then theory. Theory's like at the end, basically.
I thought thesis was the end.
Thesis? No, a thesis is like a university paper.
Which is the conclusion, right?
No.
No?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
The theory is the highest graduation of any idea in science. So, for instance, germ theory of disease.
So, wait. So you're saying there's no experimentation?
I said experimentation. In testing is the experimentation. Testing process.
Testing to but.
Well, it depends.
Okay, so.
It depends on your hypothesis.
This is why I'm getting confused, right? Because you're saying that science has nothing to do with proof, right?
Well, that's not entirely that's a bit ambiguous, because when sort of you say proof, it doesn't deal in proofs like math does, but it can prove things like germ theory can prove that, say, germs aren't, or disease isn't transmitted by smell, for instance, which is what they thought beforehand, right? So if you're talking about local proofs, yes.
Well, hold on for a second. But for the longest time, the local people believed that heavier objects. I got a phone call.
Hey, Robert, got a phone call.
Yep. Oh. Uh-oh.
Okay.
We have a moon dolphin in chat. Just saying.
You ever heard of
I can probably find a scientific methodology graphic if that would clear things up. It's fairly straightforward. Like it's not that.
Oh, are you a scientist, Mark?
No.
Oh.
I mean, not technically, no. So I don't, I don't know what you'd sort of classify as a scientist. Maybe in a loose sort of, colloquial sense, maybe. But I mean, I don't formulate hypothesis, do testing, do experimentation. No, that's not what I do.
You're a pretty good science communicator, though.
Yeah, I mean, I try my best, but I don't think I'm a scientist. Like not in the sort of technical terminology of it.
So, from what I've been told, if you want to claim to be a scientist, you at least have to work in science on a daily basis.
Yeah, I would say that is.
I think that's the bare minimum.
So anyway, for the longest time, people believed that heavier objects fell faster, right? Until Galileo tossed a heavier and a lighter object off the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and they fell at the same rate. Is that not an example of...
Well, that was actually found out ages beforehand. With what is the sloped balls? I can't remember that. But anyway, yeah, you're right. So when scientists find something is not correct, it sort of stops being theory. So sort of making mistakes and getting wrong results is not a bug in the system, it's a feature.
It's a feature. So process of elimination is that's interesting. Because like invention is the mother of necessity. Well, because necessity is the mother of all invention, right? So like,
Well, I think that's a colloquialism. I don't think all invention runs on necessity. You know, I don't think anybody really had a need for some of the things we've invented.
you don't think so? I mean, I
No.
imagine that there are probably dead end inventions, right? Like maybe somebody with the idea to like invent like a nuclear hot dog.
Sure.
But no, it just like it. What you're saying to me is that like you can make observations and predictions, and that substitutes for experimentation.
No.
No.
But in some way you've got to test to see whether your prediction is going to be correct or not. So that's what the experimentation and testing is for. You're seeing if when you make the prediction before you do it, that it actually is reliable, that it keeps happening. Because don't forget, we don't just run an experiment once. I had you might have missed it because you were cutting in and out. But you know, if you flip a coin once and say, "Oh, it lands on head," I think it'll land on heads, and it does. You can say, "Okay, from that, it always will land on heads." But that's not how it works. You have to do it multiple times and get the same result. So that's what the testing is for. And peer review, part of that is people doing replication studies. They do the study as well and then see if they get the same result as well.
So extraordinary evidence for extraordinary claims. How many times would the penny have to hit heads before you would accept the hypothesis of God?
What? Why would I accept the hypothesis of God off of a penny flip? How does that? What's your hypothesis?
What I'm saying is, if I predicted heads 1,000,000 times in a row and I got it, could I then claim that that was because of God?
Well, you'd have to do it again. Like that's one test, right? So you're saying 1,000,000 times in a row you flip a coin, and that would be God. Okay.
And it comes up heads, right? And there's no funny business. Like it's not a double-headed coin, right? Could I claim that as evidence of God, or would there be a bias?
Sure. Nope.
Sure.
But what would be your hypothesis? So the hypothesis is used to falsify. Well, what's the falsification criteria?
Okay.
Hang on.
Then
Dustin, this is important.
The hypothesis
Hang on. Dustin, let me talk for a second. Because this is important. That if you're saying, hey, if I flip 1,000,000 times and they're all heads, that is a God, then the null hypothesis is the opposite, right, of the hypothesis, right? So it's called the null hypothesis. It's basically what is true if that doesn't happen, right? So if you flip 1,000,000 times and it's not all heads, that means the opposite, that you throw the hypothesis out, that coin flipping is related to God.
But wait. What? Let's say, for example, every single time I flipped it, it came up tails. Could I then claim that God intentionally forced the experiment to fail, thereby proving it by the antithesis of the experiment? I mean, all I'm saying is if we had evidence of intent, right? For example, so if God had intended for the penny to hit heads 1,000,000 times, right? And an acceptable alternative to that would be for it to hit tails 1,000,000 times, because who knows? Maybe from his perspective, the ground, he's looking up at us, right? I mean, who knows, right?
Okay.
So
that's a good hypothesis. That's a good hypothesis. So let's go with that. Okay. Let's say if it hits heads 1,000,000 times or if it hits tails 1,000,000 times in a row, then a God exists. Do you want to do the experiment?
I mean, not me personally.
You can do that experiment. Well,
but
wait, don't you have a penny? Why can't you do that?
I do have. Well, I mean, I have to be to work in the morning.
Well, as soon as you get, like if you start out on a head, as soon as you get a tail, the experiment's over, right? Because you said in a row.
Let's see. Yeah. Well, no. Yeah. But let's say, for example, I come to you and say that how many people would I have to have with me before you would
Okay.
accept it?
Well, what I would do is you would put that into a paper and I would replicate the study, right? I would do a replication study. Can I do the same thing? Can I call on God to give me 1,000,000 heads or 1,000,000 tails in a row? And will it work as well? Is it a reliable thing? And if you say, well, it only works for me, I would say, well, you're going to have to demonstrate it to me.
I could. I mean, that would be a good way out of it, I suppose. But
Well,
really, what the
do you mean a good
question
way
many
out of
people
it?
would I have to have with me? Well, because that's not what my question. That's a brilliant question. That was a brilliant answer to a question that nobody asked. Like my question was, how many people would I have to have with me before you would accept it?
And you are making a flawed question. It's not, the method is not reliant on the amount of people that claim they've seen something, right? Or else we would think Bigfoot exists or fairies exist, because people will claim that is the case. Like, it's not about who claims what. It's about, can we replicate what you have done and get the same conclusion? That's how the process works. Because if I claim that mixing these two chemicals will actually provide a substance that has, hang on, Dustin, let me finish, provides a substance that has a detrimental effect on cancers, for instance, other people will be able to do the same experiment and get the same result. And then we can say, hey, yes, that is something that we know from then on.
I mean, that's a little hyperbolic. If I made a concoction in my back
How's it
seat, but
hyperbolic?
I wasn't recording the exact amounts, right? Well, because like if in like say I'm working in a lab and I'm not even a scientist, but I'm a janitor and I knock over some beakers, right? And some doctor the next day injects somebody and they get cured of cancer. I mean, they won't be able to replicate it, right? So who's going to believe that this?
Dustin, you're really claiming I'm being hyperbolic, and you think that if a janitor knocks something over, a doctor's going to inject it into some random person, and you say I'm being hyperbolic.
I mean, I'm just saying, like you're saying that because I can repeat something all over the world that I don't know, man. Whatever, you're saying for the most minuscule reasons that I have to take it on faith that God doesn't exist, right? But you can't offer any
I
positive
never said that.
evidence that it doesn't. You're kind of implying it.
I
mean,
never said that.
that's what I'm getting. Well, that's what I'm getting from what you're telling me. So can you maybe correct it then?
No. What I'm
What, where?
saying, well, I'm not saying you've got to take it on faith that you're free to believe in whatever you believe. What I'm telling you is why induction works for certain things and it doesn't for other things, or you can't apply it to other things, because that was the crux of the conversation. If you can use induction to figure out where planetary bodies are going to be, why can't I use it for God? And it's because that we can't seem to get a reliable cause and effect with a God that we can say, hey, this keeps happening, and it happens the same for everybody, right? So if you're sort of saying, well, and the crux of the matter is, the real heart of the matter is your question of, why can't I use induction to provide evidence of God? And what I'm sort of explaining to you is the way that induction works is repeat instances of something happening that doesn't happen with a God. Now, you may have
Now-
other reasons to believe in a God. It may be another thing that you come by, but I'm saying induction doesn't work for that.
Well, but then I go one step further and I involve faith, right? Because
Okay.
the honest to God truth of the matter is that if I don't have the education to understand what I'm being told, then I have to take it on a certain degree of faith, right? And you're dismissing that, you're outlining it, and you're saying that it doesn't have to be a part of the conversation because there's a religious connotation to it, right? So these people that have absolutely no idea about evolution but agree with it on principle, like I don't understand why their induction is any better than mine.
Well, for a start, I mean, faith, if you're using the biblical version, faith, sort of the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen.
Like an asteroid or a comet being in the sky. Well, no, hold on. Like an asteroid or a comet being promised in a certain portion of the sky, the substance and then the faith of which things that I have not seen, right? I mean, in all honesty, if you're telling me something's going to happen in the future, it's the same thing, is it not? I don't have like I keep trying to explain and reference this, right? If I don't have the education, then there's a portion of me that's taking this on faith, and you keep failing to address why that induction is incorrect. You just dismiss it out of hand, and then not just 10 seconds ago.
Dustin, I'm not dismissing it out of hand. That's whether or not you use faith to realize that, hey, a God exists, it's different than using induction. We were talking specifically about induction. The problem that I see with faith is that you can, as Peter said, you can literally believe anything on faith, and it may not be true, right? I can believe that
my question.
pigs can fly on faith. I'm not rephrasing your question.
Yes, you really are. You're just you're just kind of sidestepping it. You're not explaining to me why this form of induction. I mean, I keep rephrasing it, even trying to get you to acknowledge either there's a fundamental contradiction here, right? Or I don't know how else, because look, my induction, right? You know, and I know people have admitted that I am not stupid. Okay, so I have no reason to. I have no reason to believe that if I take an argument from induction that God exists using the same evidence that you use for evolution or science or math from testable repeatability, that the difference is that all I'm doing is blaming a separate source, and you keep failing to address why that induction, outside of some vague conclusion of my insanity, is incorrect, right? You say that because these things are testable.
Dustin.
Well, I mean, it was kind of vaguely broached upon that sanity is, there was an element of that in our conversation, and I'm not claiming that you're accusing me, but you're trying to say that because I believe in something that's not scientifically verifiable, it's kind of like having an imaginary friend.
No, I never said that in this conversation.
You didn't say it directly. You didn't say it directly, but I mean, it's kind of implied.
Okay. So I think that you're sort of engaged in something called mind reading at the moment. You think you know what I'm saying, and I'm not, right? All I'm saying is that with induction, you do need repeat instances of reliable, testable predictions. That's what you need for induction.
I'm saying that you have reliable, testable predictions. I'm claiming, well, yeah, I am at this point making a claim that this, yeah, right. I am. I'm saying that there's no real reason that your evidence that works for not God cannot also therefore apply for a God.
what testable, reasonable testable predictions are there for God?
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that there has to be, right? Like, we
But
don't
you just
have
said that I have.
verifiable.
No, hold
We
on, Dustin. You just said I have repeatable, testable predictions, and then you moved onwards. Well, you're talking about God. So, what are the repeatable, testable predictions for God?
the very same repeatable, testable predictions you claim for evolution.
Like what?
Like, pick one. Pick any one of them. Like, you're saying that it's a
You pick
miracle of
one.
evolution.
Okay.
I'm saying it's a miracle of
Yeah.
life. Now, I'm using that word very deliberately and very
Well,
technically.
no, I don't. That's a straw man. I don't say it's a miracle of evolution. I say, okay, let's take one for an example. Okay, Tiktaalik. Okay, so they predicted, due to evolutionary theory and the way that tetrapods came from, sort of the old lobed fin fish species, that they would go to a certain place in the world at a certain depth, because geological layers have depth, and they would find a organism that had traits of both lobed fin fishes and land dwelling tetrapods. They went to, I think it was Nova Scotia, I could be incorrect on that, but they looked at a certain depth of the geologic layer, and they found exactly what they were looking for.
I mean, it's there's no way to prove that they didn't know that animal was there before they made the prediction. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. And then you're going to say that I'm being unreasonable, and I'm going to say that that's the same level of evidence that you would require me if I was to make a claim that God exists. We're going to go back and forth on this. And all the while, you're still not addressing the issue at hand, which is why my induction is any worse than anybody else's, because they agree with you. Is that the only distinction?
Okay, well, there's also, let's take another one, chromosome 2 fusion. They predicted that they would find in the human genome, genome 2, I believe it is, a cryptic centromere, a second cryptic centromere, and they would find sort of decayed telomeres in the middle of where they shouldn't be. And other people went and looked, and they found exactly what they were looking for.
Can you prove that they didn't know about the telomeres before they made the prediction? Can you prove that?
So you think it's a conspiracy?
No, I'm saying that it's possible. The same way that you're saying that religion is made up of a fake, like, imaginary sky daddy, that maybe you're not necessarily saying, but is said as colloquially along most of your community. So I'm not necessarily holding you to that, but I'm saying that if you're able to point your finger at a group of people and claim that they have some kind of a conspiracy based on an imaginary friend, then I'm feeling very confident to say that scientists can have an imaginary friend called evolution, and they're trying to hoist it on me like it's real.
Well, you asked for testable predictions, that I have made that somehow accounts for God. I'd like to hear what your repeatable, testable predictions involving a God are.
I don't have any for you, man. None that are gonna satisfy you. Okay, not
Okay, that's
scientifically,
okay.
right? I mean, I believe that I have testable, repeatable, experimental evidence, but much like many of the crackpots that have made faulty inventions and have come up with experiments that prove both that light is a particle and a wave at the same time. I mean, logical inconsistencies and contradictions. I couldn't
Okay,
produce what you want. No,
well,
it's like, and to a
that's
certain
fine.
degree, I'm also admitting that you couldn't produce what I'm asking for. But I'm still
Well,
waiting
I
for
mean,
an explanation for why my induction and your induction are different. Like, I mean, what is the quality that makes the difference? You're saying that evidence, like, I can say the exact same thing. The telomere evidence could be evidence for God. I mean, but what you're not giving me is an actual explanation for why God couldn't have done this.
Well,
Can I ask a question?
it's not why God couldn't have done it. It's sort of saying that it wasn't predicted before. Go, Peter, go.
Yeah, I'm really curious. So I'll follow up on what you just said, Dustin. So how is the telomere evidence of God?
I mean, I look, I can make this very same claim the scientists do when they say the telomere is
Okay,
evidence
do.
for evolution, right? I mean,
Make the
but the
claim.
thing is that I'm trying to make that claim, right? And I'm also telling you that I don't have the requisite education to understand the mechanics that are based on the principles. I mean, I have a vague idea, right? The double helix end has a telomere that can be bonded, and the shorter it gets, the shorter an organism is. A vague idea.
How that doesn't make any sense in why the telomere is evidence for
Telomeres
God.
are directly linked to the age of an organism.
No.
It is actually. It's the age of the cell.
Thank you. Yes.
It's age of the cell. Yeah. Except
Okay,
the fragmented telomeres that we found in chromosome 2, and they're not linked to the age of the cell.
No, and they're also not linked to God. I'm still missing how you link that as evidence for a God.
Well, like I said, I couldn't provide the necessary requisite. I mean, that's just my opinion. Claiming that
Okay.
the scientists have
Now,
nothing more
I appreciate
opinion
you being
that
honest
says
about
that
that,
it's
because I took you at your word
directly
when you
related to
said I
evolution.
can make the
It doesn't have to
claim.
be a
I can make the
conspiracy,
oh,
right? Like,
sorry.
these people go,
Cut up.
doesn't have to be a conspiracy. They know what's good for them.
They
They don't
don't go
know
to the
all.
same schools.
They
Yeah,
don't.
no.
I
Yeah.
could make the
This is
claim. I can
scientists
make the
around the
claim all
world,
day,
so
but
Japan
Yeah.
and England and.
No,
Well,
I
yeah,
appreciate
uh,
you being
and
honest
they
and
don't
saying, okay,
have.
this is just my opinion. I'm hold on, Dustin. I appreciate that you're being honest and saying, okay, this is just my opinion. I honestly,
I'm
if you were
listening to you.
making the claim that it's evidence for God, I would like you to clarify how it's evidence for God. And so, since you said it's my opinion, I'll take that, and I appreciate you being honest. That's
Yep,
it.
no problem. So look, and in all honesty, right? We take for granted that gravity is going to be holding us on the ground tomorrow, right? But we don't know what gravity is,
No,
and my induction, we
no,
really don't. So I
no.
don't understand why.
no.
Like,
I
I
have a
don't know.
ton of
Is
evidence
it?
of gravity keeping me on. Dustin, I have a ton of evidence of gravity keeping me on the ground. Like, all my life, I've got evidence that gravity will keep me on the ground. It could fail tomorrow and I'd suddenly float upwards, but that's what induction is. It's basically saying, hey, it keeps keeping me on the ground. So it's reasonable to believe that it will keep me on the ground tomorrow. In fact, I can go so far as to say, well, considering every single second of every single day it's kept me on the ground, I know that it will keep me on the ground tomorrow.
Well, but the thing is that if it fails, we have no chance of fixing it, right? There are certain things that mankind has come to knowledge
I
where
think,
we can get ahead of, like certain forms of cancer, certain forms of diabetes. There's ways.
Dustin, if gravity fails, then we're not going to know about it for 2 seconds. Like, seriously, like what do you mean? I have no idea. I think we'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
And medicating things, right? We have a grasp where.
I think he's cutting out. Yeah, I don't think he heard you, Mark.
That.
Yeah, I don't think he did either.
Everybody, it's been about 5 hours and something minutes.
Hello?
Oh.
Are you getting tired, Logan?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Logan.
That's
yeah,
all right.
well, it was a great conversation. I had a lot of fun.
Good
So thank you,
conversation.
Dustin. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Deviant. Thank you, Logan. I really appreciate it.
No. I object to that, Mark. Thank you.
What?
Because
Yeah, thank you,
took
Mark.
it down from a dumpster fire and took it into being a good conversation. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
Oh, my pleasure.
And thank you,
and thank you
Miss
to
Outcast.
Dustin and Peter, and of course the lovely, the man of the hour, the gangster ghost.
Oh, thank you.
Logan the Bogan.
Thank you for coming on here, Mark, and keeping everything.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you, and thank you, Peter, and thank you, Miss Outcast.
Anytime, Logan.
Bye.
Thanks, Logan.
Catch you guys later.
Thank you. Bye.
Don't forget to
Bye-bye.
like.
Yeah. Thank you.
Like the stream.